Good morning. That's a good start. Let's do it again. Good morning, everyone. How the devil are you doing this fine day? Hope you're all fit and well. Bit of an interrupted week this week. I'm here today, not tomorrow. Back on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all things being equal. So that's where we are right now. Mick Norton has just joined us from Wakefield. Mercy Johnston has just joined us from somewhere else. Overcast in Paddington, says Dan Cullen, but dry, no curb layers, so sitting like a spare twat, getting paid. Not a bad place. Stefan Edwards, probably from the Netherlands. Mark Whiting from somewhere else, and I think Chris Ford is here as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, Chris Ford is here. So yeah, I'm off to the testing of the JCB Hydroax tomorrow up in Rutland. So as I say, won't be here tomorrow, but looking forward to that. Should be a good event. I'll be talking a bit more about it at the end of the show. That's the good news, but I do think we need to have a bit of a chat about the house builder Vistry. Let me show you something. This is from today's Construction Inquirer, and it basically says Vistry has offered staff voluntary redundancy as the partnership's house builder steps up efforts to preserve cash and cut debt. The firm has written to staff below managing director level, inviting them to apply for an enhanced voluntary exit scheme. Vistry hasn't specified the number of roles impacted, emphasising the programme offers options for employees amid operational changes. Right, okay. So taking a loan, I mean, that's not good news, obviously, but, you know, these things happen. But let's go back a little bit. If we go back a couple of years, you will see, when I can find the damn thing, there we are. Yeah, go back a couple of years, and Vistry, the very same company, was asking subcontractors and its supply chain basically to take a cut of 10%, basically a 10% discount on contracts that have already been fulfilled. Vistry announced a dramatic switch in its business model last month to become a partnerships-only housing business. Chief Executive Greg Fitzgerald at the time pledged to return £1 billion to shareholders over 3 years as assets are released from the traditional house building division. So a couple of years ago, 10% discounts from the supply chain. Now they're seeking voluntary liquidations. And then if I go over to somewhere else, bear with me a second, I've turned off the link. And this one comes from the Telegraph. When was this? Day or two ago. If you bear with me 1 second, share screen, there you are. Vistry is basically offering houses at a discount of up to £100,000 in an effort to spur sales and raise cash. Doesn't sound good, does it? 10% discounts, 100 grand off the price of your house, voluntary staff redundancies sought. I think we need to watch that one pretty closely. That does not look good at all. But good morning to everybody that's just arrived here, by the way. Ken Hatcher is here. Ken, I didn't let you know because I completely forgot, but you won on Friday. You won the notebook. I haven't put it in the post yet because basically I was too busy over the weekend. Stefan Edwards, yes, returned from Dublin last Friday, a couple of days in the Netherlands before I'm heading to the UK and Italy. Very nice too, particularly the Italy bit. I would love to watch that car. Well, stick around, Ken. We are planning, given the popularity of the show that we did with Bobcat over the weekend, we've got another one coming with Volvo, other bits and pieces, but we're going to be doing one. I've already kind of started to lay out exactly how I want the JCB Hydroax film to pan out. This is obviously only up to and including the testing. It can't include the denouement in Bonneville Flats over in Utah. But yeah, we're producing another film on that, so look out for that. Demo Darv, Andy Darvell says, morning, everyone. How are we all? Loading wet sticky clay out of old ponds for a D6 to level out and Vertkin to stabilise and use again. Happy days. Dan on Vistry. That's not good. Yeah. Chris, bloody typical. I've parked up where there's no signal on the phone. The little circle is sending me dizzy. Have to move. Yeah, well, make sure you do. And CITB is also set for a £20 million pension windfall. Yeah. At a time when they are actually reducing the amount that they're giving back to the industry, they are in for a £20 million windfall. life in general and life in construction doesn't seem fair, does it? Seemed a bit skewed, not generally in the right direction. Anybody else feel that? Right, people. As I say, got a full program for today. We're going to touch on the Hydromax at the end of the show, although only briefly, because obviously it hasn't happened yet. So we'll be doing that at the end of the show. Got a bunch of videos to show you, and also we've got this latest round of our mini excavator World Cup. Is this? You know the rules by now. Somebody has given you enough money to buy yourself your own mini excavator, but you must choose from one of those two brands. Are you going for Case or are you going for Mechalak? Personally, I think it's head over heart for this one for me. I love the innovation of one. I like the longevity of the other. Head versus heart. Let me know what you think. Would you go Case or would you go Mechalak? Do I have a banner to remind you of that? I do. I'm better prepared than I thought I was. There you are. There's a banner to remind you exactly what today's Mini Excavator World Cup is all about. Jim Turner has just arrived. Good morning to you, Jim. How are you doing, my friend? Thank you very much indeed for being here. Let us have your votes when you can. We've had 2 votes come through so far, and it's a 50-50 split. So we need some more deciding votes, if you would all be so kind. And just so you know, I have been suffering hellishly with hay fever over the weekend. So if this show descends into me just sneezing and snotting all over the place, you can accept my apologies in advance. There's nothing I can do about it. It's a 2-1 over in the Mini Excavator World Cup. I'll leave that to roll. In the meantime, I'll play you this. Just on that subject, Ken, on the subject of hay fever. Hay fever's bad. Listen, I can't say I've ever studied the mechanics of hay fever. I went to Kingston for a bit of shopping over the weekend. Bought nothing, but just had a bit of a stroll around the shops. Sneezing all over the place. Came back, sat indoors, sneezing all over the place. Got up on Sunday morning, sneezing all over the place. But I had to cut the grass. You would think cutting grass would make things a whole lot worse. Entire time I was in the garden, no problem at all. Came back indoors, sneezing all over the place. How's that all about? Mick Norton says, house builders are adding false chimneys to satisfy planning aesthetics, hide ventilation terminals to make identikit estates look traditional without the cost of real construction. Bloody ridiculous. You go back to when Neil Edwards was a regular on this show. And, from month to month, house building was accounting for somewhere between a third and a half of all construction activity. And here we are with house builders offering £100,000 off the price of a new build house because the arse has fallen out of the market. That's how far we've come. That's how far we've fallen, I'm afraid. It is. Dan says, these fake chimneys are of timber frame chimneys. What would Santa make of that? It's not necessarily grass pollen, could be flowers, trees, etc. Yeah, and unfortunately, because obviously we had the bereavement in the family, our house is currently full of flowers, and there's a lot of pollen about, I have to say. But it is Monday, the 15th of June. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the walrus of demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, and the authentic voice of the global demolition industry. In today's show, demolition dust suppression on a whole new level. Wait till you see it. You'll ignore the dust suppression. Just look what it's mounted on. Sunward powers ahead with electric. 8 things you need to know about the new Komatsu articulated hauler and Rubble Master's new screen star. Plus, in today's episode of Mark's Morning Monologue, a piece of history. And the starting point, the jump-off point for the piece of history article or monologue is the JCB Hydromax. but the true creators of history are you. Stick around, you'll hear all about it. Don't forget, top of the screen there, which mini excavator brand would you choose? Would you choose Case or Mechalak? Let us have your answer in the chat. We are, there is one company in the lead at the moment. We need some more votes, if you would be so kind. I'll be back. No, I won't be back. I've done this, haven't I? Yes, I've done that. Have I done it? I tell you what, I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to ignore it. Let's talk dust suppression on demolition sites. You know, dust bosses, mount them on the ground, fire water into the air. Sometimes they mount them on machines. Have a look at the machines that BCS Demolition have them mounted on over in the States. A 50, 60 ton excavator dedicated to nothing but dust suppression. Quite the thing, right? Jim Turner was enjoying the tune. Yeah, kind of bit country, bit bluesy. Mick Norton, thank you for the advice. Try peppermint tea to make your breathing feel easier. Contains menthol, which can soothe the symptoms. I quite like your peppermint tea anyway. Tend to eat it in Turkish restaurants, which I love, by the way, since I've embraced the vegetarian way of life. Eating a lot of Middle Eastern food. Absolutely loving it. Dan Cullen says, that 385C is a beauty. Brings back memories of one of the best beasts I ever operated. It's quite the tool, right? Ken Hatcher, that's the way indeed. Chris Ford, demolition pole, cheaper than a high reach, not quite as selective. Yeah. But it was obviously the forerunner to the high reach. A number of people that just modified one of those within their own yards, basically, and then went out and prodded and poked stuff down. Superb. That's interesting. The dust suppression on a machine, that's different. Obviously lower level, but I know AR Demolition, last time I was on one of their sites, they've got a Manitou telescopic handle that's dedicated to dust suppression. Just the entire, it's got forks on it, but the forks house this dust suppression unit, and that's all it does. And because I think it's 4-wheel drive, but also crab steer and everything else, very, very mobile, can get in and around and about. Superb stuff. As I said, Jim enjoying the tune, and the votes are still coming in, as you can see at the top of the screen there. I think it's going to be a bit of a whitewash, this one. We've only had one vote for one of the brands and lots of votes for the other, so I'll keep it running. Let's have a bit of this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, we're talking Sunward right now. Sunward Electric, and the ability to go through a whole working day on a single charge. This is how they're doing it.
We at Sartor Drank are very satisfied with the electric excavator that we bought from Silver. This is the first time we are trying an electric excavator from Sunward. One of the reasons we are really so pleased is because the battery reliably lasts throughout an entire working day. If there is overtime, we can actually fast charge it. It's a very straightforward machine. I find the machine very good to drive, it's very comfortable, and I'm very satisfied that it has a touch screen that's very easy to operate. Here in Bergen, we have a goal that all construction sites should be emission-free. Therefore, it is absolutely very convenient to show up at a job site with an electric excavator from Sunward. I can highly recommend it to other machine operators and companies. It is a very good machine.
Maybe this is a geographical thing, Dan. He's saying, funnily enough, not seen many Sunwalls on sites yet. I have. In and around where I live, I stumble across a couple on a fairly regular basis. I'm fairly sure they're not the same ones I keep seeing time and time again, but we've seen a fair few around here. Maybe we've got a strong local dealer. Not sure what the case is there. Speaking of case, don't forget, that is still going on. Mini Excavator World Cup, Case versus Mechalak. If you have a preference out of the two, please type the name of them in the chat. We'll be getting to that in just a moment. While you're thinking about that, let me do that.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Interesting question from our friend Ken, who says, I wonder how many kilowatts it uses. That was the Sunward excavator. I've not looked very closely at some of the spec sheets for the electric excavator manufacturers. Are they stating that very clearly? I mean, I don't know the answer to that, so I'm asking the question. But also, I wonder how well we understand kilowatt hours and the like. You know, it's a fairly easy calculation. You know, if you know the number of litres per hour you're going to be using and you know how much diesel you have, how much diesel your fuel tank will hold, it's very easy to do the maths. You know, so many litres per hour, that's how many litres are in the tank. It will run for 12, 14, 15 hours. I understand that. Is that as easy on an electric machine, I wonder? Oh, yeah. If anyone knows, please let me know. The amount of sites been on mostly Kobelco, Hitachi, Komatsu, Cats, yeah. Not many Liebherrs, Sunwalls, or XMGs. Well, XMGs, I understand, fairly early doors for them. I mean, Sunward to a degree is still fairly early doors, but plenty of Liebherrs around, surely. I understand it now, having a part electric car. Yeah. I mean, the one thing I would say about an electric car, and again, I'm sure it's the case when you've got an electric excavator, when you've actually bought it, you know, they make it very, very clear. You know, I've driven Teslas and you can see charging levels and battery levels and everything else. I understand that. But if you are comparing, for example, a diesel machine against an electric machine, an equivalent sized electric machine, how easy is it to do the comparison on how much you will get per tank full? I realised electricity doesn't come in tanks. Mick Norton says only one Sunward dealer up in Yorkshire. It's a growing network, though. It is a growing network. Although, interestingly, they were at the last Hillhead. Last I heard, they're not at the next one, which is just a few weeks away now. Not sure what the thinking is behind that. Anywho, people, let's have a bit of Komatsu. 8 things that you desperately need to know about their new HM460-6 articulated haul truck.
Hi, I'm Nathaniel, and here's 8 things you absolutely need to know about the all-new HM460 articulated haul truck from Komatsu. 1. The use of lighter yet higher strength steel pushes the payload on this all-new truck to 46 short tons. 2. The truck features 9% more horsepower and 23% more torque than its predecessor. 3. It features an all-new 9-speed transmission equipped with a state-of-the-art transmissions management system, giving you improved hill climbing traction, speed, responsiveness, and control. 4. Our Komatsu payload meter system comes standard. 5. The cab is extremely comfortable with 43% reduction in blind spots and 16% more glass in the cab for greater visibility. 6. We are lowering your total cost of ownership with 22% fuel efficiency gains and extended service intervals for reduced lifetime owning and operating costs. 7. Each HM460-6 is equipped with Komatsu's Smart Quarry Site Fleet Visualization Solution, as well as Smart Construction Field to put all critical job site views, data, operator information, and paperwork in a single location. 8. Each Komatsu HM460 is backed by your local Komatsu dealer, as well as our complimentary Komatsu Care and Komatsu Care Plus repair and maintenance programs. Call your local Komatsu dealer for more information on this massively productive new articulated hauler. And as always, learn more at komatsu.com.
Smart machine. Would you choose one of those over the Volvo equivalent? Love to know. Dan Cullen saying the electric car is more polluting than the regular car, as everything is plastic. Everything in my car is plastic, so not sure that counts. Lithium battery and quality, yet the safety of people that extract these is diabolical. I'll take your point. I don't necessarily agree with it, but are you saying that those that extract oil and gas and petrol and things like that, you're saying that they are the very beacon of all things health and safety wise, and yet those that are dealing with lithium are not? Dan says, I will never buy an electric car or vehicle if they look I'm guessing they look horrible, very uncomfortable, and roads and car parks in UK are not suitable. And yet I would. Electric excavators typically consume 5 to 35 kilowatts per hour, while diesel excavators typically burn 0.8 to 15 litres per hour, which equates to roughly 8 to 150 kilowatt hours per hour of energy input. All of which sounds fantastic, but without a calculator in my hand, I don't know what any of that means. It's all part of the learning curve. It's like, if you pop the hood on a diesel machine or a diesel car or a petrol car, you kind of know what's what. You know where the spark plugs live and the oil tank and stuff like that. You pop the hood on an electric machine, it's like, oh, that's obviously a battery. What's all these other gubbins? It's a learning curve. Stefan says, I've got no issues using my EV in the UK. No. As I say, I know people that have made the leap over into, first hybrid, but then electric, family members and everything else. Not a problem at all. No problems in the UK, no problems in other countries in Europe. I mean, obviously, Stephanie's in the Netherlands, and they are very much at the very forefront of all things environmental. So I understand the need there. But yeah, he travels extensively. No problem with electric. I mean, I guess there's, Stefan, I'm asking the question. I'm not making a statement here. I'm guessing that you do have to plan your journeys if you're traveling any kind of distance, to be able to pop off and charge along the way. But you can't, there's a function on the sat nav in my wife's car that tells you where the nearest petrol station is. I use that more than I care to admit. You do a day's work and you set off and you think, another couple of hours I'll be home. Oh, bugger. I've got no juice and I don't know where I am and I don't know where the nearest petrol station is. Do that all the time. So I guess it's more or less the same. Let's have a look. Jim says, I'd have an electric vehicle if I had wind, solar, hydro to charge it. Yeah, there we go. Long trips I do plan, says Stefan. Yeah, going back to Jim's point there, if the adoption of electric vehicles encourages more people to take on solar or wind power, one of these small windmills off the back of your house or whatever, particularly if you're selling energy back to the grid and earning money from it. Is that not a good idea? I think it probably is. We've got one more film to show you, which I'm doing the Hillhead advert first. I don't know if Rubble Master are going to be at Hillhead. They normally are, but we'll be back with them in a moment. I know what you're saying, Mick. Think of kilowatt hours, or kWh, as the electric equivalent of litres of diesel. All of which is fine, but you are still talking to a guy that feels gallons were perfectly acceptable. Maybe the problem isn't the manufacturers. Maybe it's me. Cheap power is good power, says Jim Turner. That's why I'd like a tractor with a hot bulb engine. There you are. There you are. I love me a bit of cheap power. Totally agree with you. Right, one last film. This is Rubble Master, and everything's fine. Well, that soundtrack certainly woke me up. That should be just about it for the today's show, but we do need to settle this little thing right here. Today's episode of the Mini Excavator World Cup pitted Case against Mechalak. I think we have a winner. Let me go over to here. I'm going to show it, and I'm going to stop it, at which point we should find out who the winner is. Yeah, there you are. With 80% of the vote, 80% of the vote goes to Case. I'm afraid Mechalak are going home. Not very far. They're over in France, and Case go ahead to the next round. I can tell you, if I very quickly take a look, when I come back on Wednesday, the next round will be Volvo. Volvo are taking on Shantui. I've got a funny feeling I know how that one's going to pan out. But yeah, Case are going through to the next round, and Mechalak are going home. So that pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. Final reminder, I will not be here tomorrow. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look out after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very, very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I will be back immediately after this. On Tuesday this week, I am travelling to Rutland, quite possibly to witness a piece of history in the making. I'm going to attend the testing of the JCB Hydromax, an astonishing piece of automotive engineering that has set its sights on a world speed record for a hydrogen vehicle. I'm going partly out of fascination and partly out of admiration for JCB, but I'm also going because when future historians tell the story of hydrogen's adoption as a clean fuel alternative to diesel, this moment will mark a turning point. And should the Hydromax set a new world record at the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah later this year, I will have a small but undeniable connection to a piece of history. My place in history is inconsequential, of course, unlike those who toil in the demolition and construction industry. For those brave and noble men and women, history is all around. It's either being dismantled meticulously or it's being forged in real time. To those working in demolition, history is a constant companion. The yellowing newspapers long discarded, bearing yesterday's headlines. The artefacts left behind as families and businesses move on. The architectural marvels that will be carefully removed and set aside for reuse in some future new construction. The unexploded ordnance from a conflict decades ago. But if demolition brushes with history, construction creates it. Every new road, bridge, home, school, hospital, factory or office block will take its place in the pantheon of history. And while very few of them will last forever, their contribution to the nation's history is undeniable. That new school might teach a future prime minister or a future inventor. That new hospital might be the place where a cure for cancer is discovered. That factory might be the birthplace of a company that will go on to provide gainful employment for thousands of people around the world. Those roads and those bridges will take people home to their loved ones, connect towns, and provide a vital link between disparate communities. Outside of museums and libraries, construction is our most visceral and visual link with our past. When we think of history, we often do so through the lens of buildings. The pyramids of Giza, the Parthenon in Athens, the Colosseum in Rome, the Empire State Building in New York, St. Paul's Cathedral here in London. Each of them provides an insight into the lives of our forebears. And while a 2-up, 2-down house in a rural English town might not have the same global resonance as the Parthenon, it will become an integral part of the history of multiple families. It will be where relationships are forged, where children are born and raised, and where memories are created. Each brick laid on a housing site today will provide protection and warmth for a multitude of future generations. Each new road will carry millions of footsteps. Each new school will safeguard children on that tricky path towards adulthood. Each new hospital will bear witness to those arriving into the world and those leaving it. And none of that would be possible without the men and women of construction. Whatever happens in Rutland tomorrow will be fleeting. All things being equal, the JCB Hydromax will travel to Utah and set a new speed record for a hydrogen-fueled vehicle. If and when it does so, its record-breaking run will be over in the blink of an eye. Then there's every possibility that the record will be broken by someone at some point in the future. Its place in the history books will be secure, if impermanent. Regardless, the name of JCB and of the driver / pilot, Wing Commander Andy Green OBE, will live on. The names of the technicians and engineers that made it all possible will probably be forgotten. Similarly, those houses, hospitals, schools, roads, bridges will live on for decades, possibly centuries. Future generations might recall the name of the architect that designed them or the company that built them. The names of the men and the women that cleared the way, that dug the foundations, that laid the bricks, erected the roof, and laid the tarmac will be lost in the mists of time. But together, they will have created a little piece of history all their own. Prompted by the JCB thing, obviously. I mean, I think that's probably stating the obvious. But why aren't we telling that story to our younger people? That opportunity to be a part of history? Because that's what it is. You build a house today, and in all likelihood, you'll be able to point that house out to your children, your grandchildren, quite possibly your great-grandchildren, 40, 50, 60 years hence, and say, I built that. Not single-handedly. Me and my mate Dave did that, but I built that. You see, you know this road we're driving on? This didn't exist 20 years ago, but me and my colleagues built this. It's a story that we don't tell anywhere near often enough. Let's have a look. No Gary Muirhead. No Gary Muirhead. I don't know where he is. Gary, I hope all is well. I'll reach out to him after the show. I wonder why the Wankel, I always love saying that, the Wankel rotary engine was never considered for construction equipment, compact and few moving parts. Now, there's a bit of me that suggests that sometime back in the dim and distant past, like the late 1980s, that someone did. I don't know who it was. I don't know what the machine was, but I have a vague recollection that the Wankel, still laughing, the Wankel rotary engine was used in a piece of construction equipment. If anyone knows what that was, I'd love to hear about it. Rutland and the JCB link. Lord Anthony Bamford, chairman of JCB since 1975, was granted a life peerage in 2013. His full title includes Rutland. It does, and it did, but he's not a lord anymore. No, he. I don't know how you go about handing back a lordship, but he did do that. He stepped down from the House of Lords, and he is now plain old. He is plain old Anthony Bamford now. History is the key to the future, and today's world will be nothing if it wasn't for the history and learning from mistakes of yesterday. Quite right. Although I do wonder just how well this industry does actually learn from its past mistakes. ISG, Carillion, and then fast forward, Ardmore, Stuart Milne, Vistry looking sketchy. Are we learning those lessons? I do wonder if we are. But going back to that point, the very fact that you could point out to your children, your grandchildren, to anybody that cares to listen, see that there? See that me and my mates built that. I mean, imagine if you were part of the crew that built the Shard, for example, or the new Wembley Stadium, or something like that. Where you will be attracting literally hundreds of thousands, millions of people, and you had a hand in that. You actually helped to build that. You installed the glass. You laid the bricks. You dug the foundations. Whatever it might be, you are part of that building's history. Dan says, "I love traveling around and telling people I was part of this job. I was the first on this job, and we made this possible." Yeah. I mean, I think that's a message that gets lost with demolition. You look at particularly some of the big building works, the tower blocks that have gone up in the City of London over about the last 10, 20 years. These huge landscape skyline dominating structures, 50, 60, 70 stories high. But there was something there before it. Those would not exist were it not for the demolition work that preceded it. How often do we tell people that? You see that tower block there? That would not exist if it wasn't for me and the boys. I think it's a message we don't tell anywhere near often enough or anywhere near loudly enough. I mean, talk about job satisfaction. If you work in a factory, yes, you might make a widget, and you might make 500 widgets a day, and those widgets will go in a little plastic bucket and they'll be shipped off to somewhere. And okay, well, you've made a widget, but imagine the job satisfaction to say there was a building here, old, run down, decrepit, dilapidated. We took that down. We took it down below basement level. We dug the foundations and we started the work on that edifice that now dominates the London skyline, or the Manchester skyline, or the Newcastle, Leeds, Glasgow, Edinburgh skyline. We made that possible. That's proper, long-lasting, historic job satisfaction. I was in the basement dig of Shard on Crossrail in Tottenham Court Road. I was on both of those. I'd only a fleeting visit in both cases, but yeah, I did do that. The Tottenham Court Road one was slightly painful for me, I have to say, because just before the Crossrail project started, There used to be an old theatre. Well, it was a theatre, but by and large, I knew it as a music venue. The Astoria, not well, the top end of Tottenham Court Road, basically. And it was a key hangout for me when I was a kid. Went to see loads of bands there, and to mark the fact that it was coming down, they actually held one final gig there, which they called the Demolition Ball, which I thought was very, very good. And me and my daughter and my best mate's daughter went along to the Demolition Ball, and it was one of those, they were all fairly low-key, not overly successful bands. But they played for about 2.5 hours, about a dozen bands, and then the entire audience and all the bands retired to the bar together and had a bit of a chinwag, which was really, really good. But then I went back maybe 2 months later, and it was almost entirely gone because Crossrail was going through where the Astoria used to stand, which is a sad thing to note. But, if it gets you around London a little bit quicker. And I have to say, despite all that I've just said, the Astoria Theatre was very, very, very tired. It was looking in pretty poor state when we were there. The electric speed record is 342 miles an hour, only 8 miles an hour less than JCB's current 350 miles an hour with their Diesel Max. Heard an interesting story with the Diesel Max, actually. Apparently, the Diesel Max engine was limited. It was that they actually sort of put an upper limit on it to say, okay, that fast, but no faster than that. And 350, I don't know if 350 was specifically the target. It did just a fraction over that, but it did 350 miles an hour. I don't get the impression there is quite the same restrictions in place with the Hydromax. I will be asking the question, but I don't even know what the current land speed record is for a hydrogen machine or hydrogen vehicle. My guess is probably not that very fast because there aren't that many of them about. So yeah, JCB will have their place in the record books, all things being equal, at some point later this year, assuming all goes according to plan. How long that will last? Interestingly, and I always think that these things are going to trigger a bit of a race. The Diesel Max is they did that record run. It will be 20 years in August, 350 point something or other, and set the record. Here we are, 20 years later, all bar a few months, and that record still stands. And yet, bizarrely, and I realise these are very different things. I was involved. I think it was about 1989. 1990 or thereabouts. I did a John O'Groats to Land's End run in a backhoe or with a backhoe loader, driven by Hugh Edliano of HE Services, and we set a record of about 32 hours non-stop. And that triggered a bunch. There was we did it with a JCB machine, the Land Shuttle, and then I think Cat had a go, and then somebody else in the JCB had a go. Yeah, there you are. It's I don't know why. I don't know why the diesel speed record has been left to fester. Oh, sorry, somebody just sent me a message on Twitch, which doesn't happen very often. And yeah, Mick saying 350, not 3,500. That would be quite the achievement. Interestingly, the guy that's behind the wheel, I'm assuming these things have a wheel. The guy behind the wheel is Wing Commander Andy Green, OBE. The very fact that the car is so fast, it's being driven by somebody with the title Wing Commander. That tells you the kind of speed that you're dealing with, 350 miles an hour. Although I was trying to remember when I think it may have been James May actually tested the Bugatti Veyron back on Top Gear many moons ago. Something tells me that topped out about 300 miles an hour. Now, obviously, that's a very different animal and everything else, but that's 350 in a diesel is fast, but a Bugatti Veyron wouldn't be far behind it. I think the Chiron is even faster still. So yeah, the current official land speed record for hydrogen is 302 miles an hour by Bucket's Bullet. Is that right? Bucket's Bullet. Can't help thinking that's well within the reach of JCB and Andy Green and the team. Looking forward, as I say, I said last week, I've seen the Hydromax in the flesh, but it was sat on a stage, sitting still, gleaming and shiny and everything else. We were off to an RAF station later this afternoon. I'm assuming they're going to be using the runway, so we will actually see the thing. I don't suppose for one moment they'll actually fully open it up. It's probably to blow the cobwebs out and make sure that everything's working and functioning before they load it on I'm assuming a ship, and then send it over to the States. Apparently it was Buckeye bullet, not Bucket's bullet. Dan Kahn saying 301.95 BMW hydrogen prototype. So, in other words, if JCB are to surpass the 350 miles an hour of their previous diesel max, I think that will probably draw a line in the sand and prove that the hydrogen combustion engine is a real deal. You'll see this when we do the documentary type film on this. That is one of the things that JCB, it's one of the drivers for JCB. If you cast your mind back to 2004, when JCB was basically a relative newcomer, they'd just taken a bit of a gamble. I think it's fairly safe to say that they've taken a gamble to start manufacturing their own engines in-house. Up until that point, they've been running on Perkins and Cummins and things like that. They decided to start building their own engines, and part of the reason for the diesel max in the first place was to prove that their diesel engines were hugely powerful, hugely reliable, hugely durable. What better way to do it than to take it over to Bonneville and power a car to 350 miles an hour? And it worked. You look at JCB now, it is a well-established and very well-respected diesel engine manufacturer. Fast forward 20 years, and they've dipped their toe, dipped several toes, I would say, into the hydrogen combustion engine market. And now it's time to prove it once again. And that's how they're going to do it. They're going to go back whence they came, back to Bonneville Salt Flats with the Hydromax, and hopefully come out at the other end with a land speed record and proof that their hydrogen engine is not the stuff of legend. It is a real deal. That's what we're all talking about. Have a fantastic day, guys. Stay safe, and happy to tell your loved ones you love them. Stay safe tomorrow, Mark. Keep an eye on those Muppets on the motorway. Yeah, I've got plenty of time to get there. We're not actually due there till about 6 o'clock this evening, but I'm going to take a nice meander up country, so we can take in a bit of the countryside. I'm not planning to race anyone up there. Get there safely, put my feet up, have a bite to eat, bed, and then a full day of work tomorrow. And then I'll be back here on Wednesday, when I hope to see you all present and correct. As I say, we'll be back with the Mini Excavator World Cup, the next round, Volvo taking on Shantui. I hope you'll be there for that. They say that those in the middle lane never look in mirrors. I can vouch for that. I never look in my mirrors. No, that's not true. I'm just joking. People, go and have a fantastic day. Appreciated your company. Thank you for all your input. And also, I forgot to say is thank you for all the feedback on Saturday's show. Much appreciated. I think I said to Dan in the chat before the show started, the Volvo film, which was kind of a similar style to the Bobcat film, it was almost done. It was 95% done. But based on Saturday, based on watching the Bobcat film, I've made some modifications. I've got a few more to make. Hopefully this time on Saturday, we'll have a new Volvo film to show you. You'll be able to see exactly what we've done with that. Mick Norton says, amazingly, the Hydromax fuel consumption, hydrogen gas, is 3 kilograms per run. Yeah. I going back to when we were up at JCB 3-4 weeks ago, and they had the hydrogen backhoe loader there, which is now a commercially available piece of equipment, and the fuel tank is on the roof, and it contains 9 kilograms of diesel. 3 cells or 3 sections, 3 kilograms each. That's what it is. Can't wait to see the Volvo film. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to bringing it to you because it's good. What is meaning per run? I'm guessing you mean per. Yeah, okay. So when they do these land speed record attempts, they tend. I think it's over 3. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert on these things, but I think the FIA, the whoever monitors these things, they give you 3 attempts. So you arrive at Bonneville, you set up shop, you carry out all your pre-testing and everything else, and then you've got 3 attempts, and they take your fastest attempt at the land speed record. That's the one that goes on the record books. And if they beat the 301, 302 that has previously existed, they will be in the record books. If they surpass 350 at any point, they will surpass their own previous record with the diesel. That's what we're talking about per run. A run in this context means a single high-speed pass on the Bonneville silt flats. Yeah, as I say, I'm fairly sure, and I don't know where I've dredged this from, but I'm fairly sure you get 3. All that build-up. But always think it's a bit like, these people that are in the Olympics. You train solidly for 4 years, you've perfected your art, you're in top physical condition, and then you have a false start on the line and you get disqualified. So with this, you get 3. I'm fairly sure you get 3 attempts. Dan, thank you. Interesting. Good. Glad we satisfied that. People, go and have a fantastic day. As Dan said, look after yourselves, please, because I want to see you back here on Wednesday, so that we can discern which is the better mini excavator, the Volvo or the Shantui. Apparently Nick says it's 1 warm-up pass and 1 timed pass. Right, okay. I don't know where I got the 3 from. Probably from years gone by when machines weren't quite as reliable. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what goes on tomorrow. I'm hoping that they open the thing up. I don't suppose they'll be going for the land speed record tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to hearing it, because so far it's just been a static thing. I want to hear what a hydrogen engine sounds like when it's producing that level of power. I'll report back on Wednesday. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon. All the best.